that Ibn Yonah writes that the people who don't make Teshuva is because they think they're perfect. They think that they're fine. He says, "Hinam k'mo chole she'eno margish b'chol yom v'lo yachshov al refuah." It's like a person who's sick, right? You tell him, "Hey, listen, you can't eat like this, you can't sleep like this, you can't drink like this. Nah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna go when Hashem takes me. When I'm gonna go, no matter what." It's a big mistake. You're not allowed to talk like that. It's not part of Ishtadut to talk like that. You can't rely on a miracle. Right. So therefore what? So this person, he eats, he drinks, he doesn't take care of his health, he smokes. And he says, nothing will happen to me. He's like a sick person who doesn't know he's sick and doesn't care to look for the refuah. He doesn't care to look for the healing. So what happens? So he says, why do some people think they're righteous like this? It's because maybe they don't know the halachot. They don't know how many things they're doing wrong. Or they don't want to know the word of Hashem because they don't want to desire his ways. They want to desire their ways. And the worst part of all this, it causes them not to be close to Talmidei Chachamim and not to learn from their ways. Rather, they think their way is fine. Right? They say, a lot of them excuse themselves. They say, the main thing is to be Odom. The main thing is Derech Eretz. Derech Eretz. Kadma LaTorah. So you see this religious guy, he has no Derech Eretz. See, I'm better than that. As long as I have Derech Eretz, it's good enough. Right? Because what's the point of being religious and you don't have Derech Eretz? So you see, I'm much better than all of them. That's why I don't need to really work on myself. Derech Eretz. They scream it over and over again. Derech Eretz. Kadma LaTorah. And then they just stay the way they are. They don't come close to Talmidei Chachamim. They don't want to hear what he says, and therefore they say, yes, nayo. Okay, next seif. הנה אנשים צדיקים ישרים בליבותם, שאגה להם כלביט תמיד מחשבותם. וינאמו על חטאם כנעמת ים. He says that's the not righteous person. The righteous person, he's the total opposite. What does he say? The righteous person, he says that they live constantly with the thoughts of how to improve their ways. Whenever they make a mistake in the service of Hashem, they right away think about it tremendously. They right away get nervous about it. They get distressed from it. Therefore he says, as if he did one of the greatest sins. Right? So as the Gemara says in Yishalmi, during the first Beit HaMikdash, right, there was illicit relations, there was murder, but the Gemara says that Hashem overlooked that. He was willing to overlook that. But what was he not able to overlook? He was not able to overlook the sin of neglecting Torah study. Whoa, how could it be? We see that falling short in performing mitzvot is actually treated more severely than committing the worst transgressions. You hear this? So a guy, he didn't put on tefillin today, or let's say the guy didn't learn Torah today. He's righteous. He bothers himself. His wife says to him, "What's bothering you?" "I didn't go to shiur today. It's unbelievable. I didn't go to minha today. What's gonna be with me?" She said, "I don't understand. There's people who are stealing. They should sit like you and say, oh, and why are you so hard on yourself?" So he says to her, what did the Gemara say? The Gemara says Hashem forgave. He overlooked the illicit relations. He overlooked the murder. Doesn't mean it's okay. But in that time, when he was judging, he overlooked it. But he didn't overlook the sin of neglecting Torah study. What is the reason the temple was destroyed? What is the reason the temple was destroyed? The Gemara says, because they didn't make bracha and birkot Torah. But they were doing immorality. They were doing avodah zarah. They were doing murder. Hashem says, no, this was what I was upset about. Learning Torah. So you see that what? That a person who's religious, he knows this and he says, therefore I know the value of the mitzvah, therefore I'm upset that I lost out this huge value of mitzvah. Imagine a guy, he tells you, oh, you didn't come to work today? No, I had this to come up, I didn't come up. You don't understand what happened. There was this guy who was at work looking for you. He says, I have a big deal. I want to go and make a big deal with this guy. If he's not here today, I'm going to go somewhere else. How could you miss? This guy it was free money. I wish I could do the deal. I didn't have the product. I knew you had it. I was calling you, you didn't come. So therefore what? Same thing with the mitzvah. person is religious, he knows it's a big deal. You're getting a big reward over here. You're getting closest to Hashem. What's the question? Of course I should be there. Okay, if something happened, I didn't have zechut to be there, whatever it was. But chaval, I missed out on such a good deal. I missed out. It was for my benefit. Therefore, the religious people, they get nervous and they get distressed over this. They missed out. He says, he says, surely we're filled with evil. Then these people who the bulk of their activities and thoughts are devoted to physical desires and follies their time. He says their preoccupation was the mundane. They don't allow their soul to think about Yirat Shamayim, and they don't allow their soul to focus on their consciousness, right? So therefore what? He says they give Torah no share in their activities, all their soul searching vanished, and then what? And then they're far from Hashem. Haz Shalom. He says what happens? In the beginning you start not learning Torah. And then you don't learn Torah. What happens to you afterwards? You end up not going to pray. Then you start not going to pray, and then you start not doing mitzvot, not giving tzedakah, not doing the holidays, not doing Shabbat. And then after that, eventually, you go and start hating Jewish people, hating rabbis, and eventually, Haz Shalom, hate Hashem. That's the path that the Yetzer Hara gets you. Tells you, do this today, do that tomorrow, do Avodah Zarah the next day. So therefore, a person has to be careful not to fall down a slippery slope. He says there's some people, if they already stop learning for a long time, and they stop praying for a long time, stop putting tefillin for a long time, what happens? They get to the point where they only focus on their activities and their physical desires. We stopped the guy the other day, right? We had a mincha outside somewhere. We say, hey, come, we have mincha. No, I can't pray mincha. And then we see him, he goes inside and he's sitting on the table right there. He didn't have to go anywhere really, he was just sitting there on his phone. And he said, no, I can't pray mincha. He's got to the point already, he didn't pray so many times, like, hey, I could do it, but I don't want to do it anymore. It's not for me anymore. Right? It's not for me. So therefore, a person has to know, you could get to such a point where your neshama is so far from all this, that all your soul searching, you don't give Torah any share in your activities, all you're looking about is what? When's my vacation? When's my next lease? When's my next restaurant? When is my next this? When's my that? Everything just desires. What about Torah? Give a few minutes for Torah, a few minutes for praying. Nah, it's not for me. Leave me alone. It's okay. You take the bracha. I don't need the bracha. What happens? That's because of the bad habit that he built. Good morning. The sages say in Masechet Avot, Ben Shishim Nezikna, 60-year-old reached the age of old age. Ben Shivim Neseva, 70-year-old reached ripe old age. Ben Shmonim Negevorot, 80-year-old reached the age of strength. Ben Tishim Lasuah, 90-year-old reached the age of prayer. Ben Me'ah, if you reached 100, Kilo Avar Batem Min Haolam. He's so weak, it's as if he already passed away. He's not from this world. What is the point of teaching us this? To teach you about Teshuva. And then once you reach the age of 60, you reach the age of old age. And therefore a person has to be careful not to do Teshuva only when he reaches this time. You have to do Teshuva before he reaches that age. But once you get the age of 70, then you have to go and remove yourself from matters of this world even more. And therefore what? And therefore you see that the Mishnah is telling you people have desires, and then when you have these desires, it's very easy to push it off to later. But then later, you get older, it's much, much harder. As King Solomon said in regards to someone who's getting old, he says, even though a person is getting old, he shouldn't be lazy from service of Hashem. He says, even though you plant it in the morning, don't forget to plant in the evening. Don't do nothing at night, meaning which is the morning is your youth, and then when you're older, you also have to do. As the sages say, even if you married a woman and had kids when you're young, and Haz Shalom, the wife passed away, you should still get married in your old age. Even if you had students when you were young, you should still have to have students when you're older, because you don't know who's going to be more successful, the young ones or when you were old. So you see that a person should never give up, and he shouldn't think, oh, there's a time later when I'll be able to do these things, or there'll be only when I was younger I was able to. No, even when you're older, never say never. As the sages tell us, what do the Jewish people say? What did Hashem say to the Jewish people when they were receiving the Torah? He says, if you accept the Torah, good. Vimlo, Sham tekvuratchem. Over there will be your burial. In grammar, you don't say sham. It's not proper to say over there. You should say po, over here. So what do they say? So they just say, there's a sickness called sham. Yeah, Israel, you hear this? There's a sickness called sham. Sham means over there. You tell a guy, do this. You're right. Patom, after. There, over there. Although sham aniyas, sham. The guy smokes, right? So he goes, when I get married, I'll stop. He gets married. No. From when I have my first kid, then I'll stop. Oh no, when he gets older, he goes to school, I'll stop. Sham, over there, all his life, over there. He says, sham. The word sham tekvuratchem. The word sham over there, that's what buries you alive spiritually. When you always push patom. A person says, if not now, so when? Hashem said, be careful. If you accept the Torah, good. If you don't accept the Torah in Har Sinai, what? Sham tekvuratchem. Over there, when you think you can live life without Torah, over there you'll get buried. And then you'll come back to the Rabbi, my son, he's off derech, please help me. Rabbi, my wife, we have shalom bayit. Rabbi, parnasat tova, what's going to be parnasat tova? You bury yourself over there, you think you can run and live life without the Torah, then you crash, and then you come back, and Hashem says, I'm still waiting for you. Baruch Olam.